So, we're going to talk about the string of crypto wins, at least on the regulatory and legal, both on national and international front, we're going to talk about today. First is MiCA. MiCA rules did come into effect, and yes, they did make things a little harder on stablecoins, although it seems like USDC is going to be fine. MiCA obviously favors, it's Europe, so they favor Euro-centric stablecoins, which I think USDC can indeed adopt to. Maybe it'll be like EuroC or something like that. But the good thing is this gives crypto legitimacy to institutional buyers. And one of the directors of basically the regulation said there are no longer speculations about the legitimacy of crypto business in the EU. Therefore, before, one always heard doubts from various stakeholders. Is the crypto business legitimate? Is there a future for crypto in a highly regulated environment such as the EU? He said these doubts have begun to disappear since the EU Parliament at the highest level has said that crypto-related businesses are legitimate and that there is a certain legal framework in which companies have to operate. So having a legal framework, even though if it's a bit tight, it actually gives it gives confidence to bigger investors and institutional investors in Europe to actually come into the space. John Igleson, former chairman of the supervisory board of Icelandic Central Bank and co-founder of Monerium, said MiCA gives regulatory clarity but also a market disruption. Since it is EMT, electronic money tokens, now need to be compliant, it also applies to CASPs, crypto asset service providers, such as exchanges and wallets, that technically will need to delist MiCA non-compliant stablecoin as soon as June 30th. So some of the MiCA non-compliant stablecoins might need to be delisted, like, a couple of days from now. But I think overall for crypto, this is a very, very good thing because it opens up crypto to a whole new class of investors in Europe. Yes, them coming in will actually be slow, and several stablecoins might have to go bye-bye in Europe until they can actually get compliant. But overall, this is a big win for the industry, gaining legitimacy in Europe. And obviously, the combined markets of Europe are bigger than the United States. So I think the market will actually grow there, and bigger investors and mainstream investors will come in Europe. So that's another focal point for money flowing into the crypto market. So MiCA is kind of a big thing. The second thing is there's a judge that sued, the judge in the Binance versus SEC case dismissed a part of the case that was crucial to the rest of crypto. Yes, she did let a lot of the case stand. So a federal judge dismissed part of the U.S. SEC's lawsuit against crypto exchange Binance and founder CZ, but allowed other charges, including charges against the holding company for Binance.US, to proceed. That might not sound good, but do you know which part of the case she dismissed? She dismissed the part of the case that was for secondary sales of BNB. So there you have it. Another judge has affirmed that secondary sales are not securities, because she just completely wiped out that part of the case. So essentially, BNB essentially has the same regulatory clarity as XRP, because that's the part of the ruling that XRP won against the SEC. And since Ethereum has now been declared basically not a security, that basically sets up the stage that all secondary sales of coins are not securities, which means coins on exchanges are not securities, and that's a huge breath of relief for companies like Coinbase. I don't think the SEC has really any real case against Coinbase anymore, because secondary sales are those sales on exchanges, and they have been basically wiped out as securities. Obviously, the ICO sales, BNB Vault, and their staking services are still on the hook, but secondary sales, which is the stuff that we deal with most of the time, are indeed not securities. I don't really know if that includes DEXs or not, but it seems like primary sales are the only things that are actually in question right now in terms of security, not securities. So that's a big, big win for crypto right there, because the secondary sales are I think the main thing the SEC is actually getting at, because then they would actually have jurisdiction over all the exchanges and they could hamper crypto. Without jurisdiction over the exchanges, they can only go for certain technical things, and that's not as good for them. So it is a big loss, I think, for the SEC, and another blow to them trying to dominate the crypto market, as it prevents them from dominating exchanges. The third thing is Bolivia. I know it's not a big country, has lifted its ban on Bitcoin, but this is a string of like smaller countries lifting bans on Bitcoin. I think they see the money is there and they cannot ignore the money. The change in regulatory stance marks the end of a ban on crypto use in the country in place since 2014. So they've been banned since 2014 in Bolivia, and I think many other smaller countries are bound to follow. So Bolivia's central bank, Banco Central de Bolivia, has lifted its ban on Bitcoin and crypto payments, allowing financial entities to conduct transactions with digital assets in a bid to modernize its payment system. Very, very forward-thinking of Bolivia, and I think many more countries will actually follow suit. So these are extremely good movements to crypto. And obviously, these all represent possible new investors. Yes, Bolivia as a country does not represent that much money, but every little bit helps in terms of like pumping for a bull run. So like, the Central Bank of Bolivia basically has reversed its position. There's been several other smaller countries that have reversed their position as well. And I think like across like Southern Asia, across Latin America, you're going to see like countries lift their bans on crypto as their neighbors do so, because there's going to be pressure to not drop behind in the market. So a very good string of 3 wins for the cryptocurrency market. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.